We ready to go? All right. Just so you guys know, this is the book, 9 Steps to Build a Life of Meaning. It's what I call the unexplainable life. Because what's our theme? Unexplainable. That's our theme this year, okay? This is the book I'm taking a lot of that stuff from, because his 9 steps are pretty much how to get an unexplainable life. So we're going through that. We're kind of on to the next one. The United States Marine Corps is probably, if not the most elite fighting force on the planet. They excel at it. They've excelled at it forever. Back in World War I, they were fighting the Germans, and the Germans did not want to fight them so badly that finally the Germans gave them a name that the Marines translated devil dogs, but in German it actually is Teufelshunden, which means the dogs of hell. They did not like going against the Marines. In the Korean War, when I went out to the Marine Recruit Center in San Diego, I got a chance to go through the Chosin Reservoir Memorial that they have there. It's a big part of the museum that's there. It's like takes up one whole floor. And it is absolutely the bloodiest battle that the Marines have ever been in the history of the Marines. There was 24,000 Marines. They were trapped in a valley, and 120,000 Chinese attacked them for 17 days. 17 days. They lost 17,000 of those 24,000 men. The ones that are left are called the chosen few. But they ended up inflicting over 60,000 casualties on the Chinese. They made them pay a horrible price. And they were still able to get out of that valley and end up being rescued, and they brought most of their wounded and the ones that were casualties with them. It's a pretty amazing thing. When I went out there, I heard a story. It's about a Marine recruit named Barrios. And Barrios just wanted to be a Marine. Not a big guy. He was just kind of skinny when he got in, when he came into 13 weeks of boot camp. But the Marines make men. That's what they do. So for 13 weeks, Barrios took everything that the drill sergeants could take out on his platoon. At the end of becoming a Marine, you have to do something to become a Marine. To go from a recruit to a Marine, it's called the Crucible. You guys ever heard of that? It's called the Crucible. It's 54 hours. 54 hours with a 50-pound pack on your back, and you have to fight for water and food. You probably don't get any sleep, if you sleep at all, to get through all the obstacles that they make you go through. But at the end of that 54 hours, there's a hill that's out at Camp Pendleton, and it's called the Reaper. And I stood at the bottom of that hill, and I was like, yeah, I ain't going up that. It is long, it is steep, and it is grueling. It's just loose gravel and dirt. And after 54 hours of barely any water, no food, no sleep, 50-pound pack on your back, you have to get to the summit. And it's rough with a 50-pound pack after all that. About halfway up, Barrios' legs just totally gave out. Totally gave out. He couldn't move them. They were just cramping. They were done. He was trying to crawl. His legs hurt so bad. And he's like, now you can, if you get to the point where you're in a medical emergency, you can call for transport, medical. The problem is if they come and have to assist you, they touch you, assist you at all, you have to go through 13 weeks of boot camp again and go through the Crucible again. He's halfway up the hill. He's almost there. A Marine, well, not a Marine, a recruit, another recruit came up behind him and said, Barrios, you're going up this hill, one way or the other. And literally grabbed him by his pack and threw him forward. And 2 feet at a time, picking up his pack, throwing him forward. This Marine had just been through the Crucible too. This recruit wasn't a Marine yet. He'd had that 50-pound pack on his back, and he's picking up Barrios, who luckily was not a big guy, but still had a 50-pound pack on his back, and literally threw him up the hill for half the hill. He just kept going, and he wouldn't give up. He said, you're making it to the top of this hill. We're not calling transport. You're going to make it. And he just kept telling him, Barrios, go. Barrios, go. Push hard. Help me. And he just kept lifting him by the pack and throwing him forward, throwing him up that hill. They got to the top of the hill. Now, at the top of the Reaper, when all the recruits are up there from your platoon, they get you in a circle. And for the very first time in their lives, they go from recruit to being Marine. And what they do is they walk around and they walk up to you, either a lieutenant colonel or a captain, and they put this. They ask the recruit to hold his hand out. Recruit, extend your hand. They press this into the palm of their hand and close their hand over it. It's an eagle, globe, and anchor. They press it into their hand, and then they salute them and call them Marine. It's the first time. They go from recruit to Marine on top of that hill. Exhausted, wore out, beat up. I heard that story from Barrios himself. When I went to the graduation for the recruits, when I went to the 3-5 graduation for Charlie Company, and I'm sitting there, Barrios came up to me with his parents and said, I have a story to tell you. And we're sitting there eating pizza, and he tells me this story. And the reason he wanted me to know that story is because he knew that my son wouldn't tell it to him, because my son Jesse was the one that threw him up that hill. This is the eagle, globe, and anchor that they shoved into Jesse's hand at the top of that hill and made him a Marine. This is the one. At that graduation, when we walked off the parade deck with him, he came up to me, my son Jesse, and he stuck this in my hand. He said, Dad, I want you to have this. I wouldn't have made it through this without you. This is the one they gave him. Because he threw one of his platoon mates up the hill. When we talk about sacrifice, we talk about being something and becoming something better than yourself. When I talked last week about being devoted to each other, that's the level of devotion that they instill in you in the U.S. Marines. Nobody gets left behind. There's nobody unimportant. Barrios is this skinny little kid from Texas. And yet Jesse said, you're getting up this hill. You're getting up this hill. And I'm going to make sure you do. The Marines have a thing, and it lines up really well with what I'm going to talk about, because the only sin that you're going to have on this team is aiming low. Aiming too low. And you aim low for two reasons. One of the reasons is kind of obvious. You aim low because you don't think very much of yourself. Now, I'm not really that good. You get down on yourself, you beat yourself up for your mistakes, and you aim low. You think, well, I don't want to aim too high and miss it and then be disappointed, so I'm going to aim low. That's what I'm going to do. That's not usually the one that affects most people. Most people have an opposite problem, because most people struggle with selfishness. Their aiming too low is because they think they've arrived. They think they're there. They think they're good. Like, man, we just beat Lakeview 42-0. We're pretty good. And that's what they think. And so they just aim here when they're capable of so much more. When I sat with Jesse and Barrios at that Marine graduation, and there were a bunch of other Marines around, probably about 5 others, I said, what do you guys think after boot camp? And every last one of them said, I played football. I ran track. I was in cross country. I thought I was in shape. Jesse said to me, he said, if I would have known that I could be in the shape that I'm in now after 13 weeks and go back to Harper Creek and play football, oh, baby, that'd be a different game. He said, I'm so much faster, so much more agile, so much quicker. I can think quicker in the point of battle. And I said, Jesse, if right now where you're at is 100%, and he corrected me, he said, I'm not at 100%. I still got some things I can get better at. I said, if where you're at right now is 100%, where were you when you played Harper Creek football? And he said, maybe 40%. 40. That's where you guys are at. You need to think of yourselves at 40%. You've got that much more to go. You got that much more right. You beat Lakeview. Did you win the I-8 crown beating Lakeview? Anybody make the playoffs beating Lakeview? Did you guys win a playoff game beating Lakeview? Didn't get you anything, did it? See, that's the thing. The next game, that's where you got to focus now. You have to aim high. Because that game, wash. That's great, you won. But now the problem you cannot let creep into your mind is that we're pretty good. You can't. Because every week is going to be a fight and a different enemy. Philippians 2:3 says this, do nothing out of selfish ambition or with conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourselves. We think as humility is something weak. It's not weak. Because here's the thing. The weak think victory is when you defeat somebody else. That's what the weak think. The weak think that's victory. You defeat somebody, that's weakness. They were weak. That's not true. What victory is when you decide to make a decision to become a better version of yourself. And some of you, that means you're going to have to pick up your cross. You're going to have to pick it up. You're going to have to work a little harder. You're going to have to go a little harder. You're going to have to discipline yourself a little bit more in your character so that it'll translate to that football field. Because your focus shouldn't be on, man, I want to make the playoffs. Your focus should be on, what do I have to do with this team to prove to this team, to prove to myself that I'm going to be a person of character when I get off this team. What is this getting you now for later? What is it going to do to make you a better husband, a better father, a better person in society, a better son to your parents? What is it going to do? What is this going to do, this experience of being in this brotherhood, of wearing Harper Creek blue every week and going to battle with your brothers? What is it going to do for you to be a better person? That's what you need to be thinking about. Because the wins will come if you think about that stuff. If that's your focus, if that's what you're geared in on. You have a currency right now to spend, and it's your time. What are you building for? What are you becoming? In the Marine Corps, they have a culture. They don't call it a tradition. It is a culture. When they go to chow, the youngest Marine eats first. The recruits eat first. The non-commissioned officers and officers, master sergeants, they go to the end of the line. They go to the back. And I want to read exactly what the Marine Corps Handbook says. It says, leaders eat last to cultivate a culture of trust, loyalty, and sacrifice by demonstrating commitment to their subordinates' needs before their own. This practice, a deeply ingrained cultural norm, it is not a rule, ensures that junior Marines are served first, fostering a circle of safety and a powerful sense of camaraderie. By prioritizing others' welfare, leaders inspire a willingness to sacrifice for the group and strengthen the team. Last week, the seniors said, hey, youngest guys eat first. You want to know why? Because the most elite fighting force in the world says the youngest guys eat first. That's why. You think Marines are tough? That's your bottom dollar, they're tough. And they understand where to put people in priority. And the youngest, the weakest go first. That's what happens. They're willing to put others' needs before their own. So they make sure the recruits eat first. So last week when the seniors said to you, hey, younger guys, you're up first, they will literally hold up the line in the Marines to make sure they've got everybody right. By rank and by age. Like how long you've been in the Marines. Before they'll walk into chow. I watched it happen at Pendleton. I stood in front of chow hall and watched them argue. How long you been in? How long you been in? And get themselves in the right position before they went through line. Are you willing to be that devoted to this team? Are you willing to give of yourself so that you can be something better? Not just for this team, but better down the road. That's what winning is about. Now, can you please just go beat Cedar Springs for me? Because you guys are good enough to do that. But it's going to take more than that 40% you're at right now. You got to step. You got to step. Antoine, you're up.